Once upon a time, in a small village nestled deep within the heart of Nigeria, there lived a young couple named Onome and Okoro. They belonged to a popular ethnic group in Nigeria and were known throughout the village for their love and devotion to each other. Onome was a beautiful and kind-hearted woman, while Okoro was a strong and hard-working man. Their love was the envy of all who knew them. But there was one thing missing from their otherwise perfect life. They had been unable to have children. Despite their longing for a child of their own, Onome and Okoro remained patient and hopeful, trusting that one day their prayers would be answered. However, as the years passed by and still no child came, the whispers of gossip began to spread throughout the village. Onome's three close friends, Ngozi, Chioma, and Adaeze, grew jealous of her seemingly perfect marriage. They whispered in her ear, filling her head with doubts and insecurities. "Perhaps the fault lies with your husband," they would say. "Perhaps you should test him to see if he is truly worthy of your love." At first, Onome paid no heed to their words. But as time went on and the pressure mounted, she began to waver. She confided in her friends about her struggles with infertility, and they seized upon her vulnerability, planting seeds of doubt in her mind. Meanwhile, Onome's mother-in-law, Mama Nneka, watched with disdain as her son remained childless. She had always harbored resentment towards Onome, blaming her for her son's misfortune. "You are not worthy of my son," she would sneer. "You cannot even give him a child." Desperate to please her husband and her mother-in-law, Onome succumbed to her friends' persuasions and began a secret affair with a man they had introduced to her. She would sneak away from her home to meet him in hotels, all the while consumed with guilt and shame. One fateful day, as Onome was meeting her lover in a secluded hotel room, Okoro unexpectedly got an anonymous message on his phone stating that his wife was in a hotel with another man. He decided to return home early from work and proceeded to the hotel in question. Shocked and horrified to find his beloved wife in the arms of another man, Okoro's heart shattered into a million pieces. He confronted Onome with tears in his eyes, his voice trembling with betrayal. "How could you do this to me?" he cried. "After all we have been through, how could you betray our love like this?" Onome fell to her knees begging for forgiveness. But Okoro's heart was broken beyond repair. He could not bear to look at her, let alone forgive her for her infidelity. Yet, despite the pain and anguish that consumed him, He could not bring himself to cast her out of his life. For you see, in their village, there existed a sacred tradition, a tradition that decreed that if a wife were to commit adultery and her husband were aware of it, he must either cast her out of his life or perform a cleansing ritual to atone for her sins. Failure to perform either task will lead to death. Despite knowing the consequences of his actions, Okoro could not bring himself to abandon Onome. He loved her with all his heart, and he believed that love could conquer even the greatest of sins. However, time passed, and tragedy struck their household. Okoro fell gravely ill, his body racked with fever and pain. Despite Onome's frantic efforts to save him, he slipped away from her grasp, leaving her alone in a world devoid of light and hope. Devastated by her husband's death, Onome sought solace in the arms of her friends, but they turned their back on her, casting her out as though she were a curse. Desperate and alone, she turned to the village oracle for answers, praying for guidance in her darkest hour. The oracle revealed to her the truth of what had transpired. Okoro's death was a punishment for his failure to uphold the sacred tradition of their people. By choosing to forgive Onome instead of performing the cleansing ritual, he had sealed his own fate. Filled with remorse and regret, Onome vowed to honor her husband's memory by performing the cleansing ritual herself. With the help of the village elders, she embarked on a journey of redemption, seeking forgiveness for her sins and hoping to bring peace to Okoro's restless spirit. Through her trials and tribulations, Onome learned the true meaning of love and sacrifice. She learned that love was not just a fleeting emotion, but a force that could transcend even the darkest of sins. And though she could never undo the pain she had caused, she could honor Okoro's memory by living a life worthy of his love. And so, with a heavy heart but a renewed sense of purpose, Onome returned to her village, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For she knew that no matter what trials may come her way, she would always carry Okoro's love in her heart, guiding her through the darkest of nights and leading her towards the light of a new dawn.